while Niklas is getting set up there, can I have your attention, please? Hello. 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 Okay. So, you know, one of the things we're trying to do is to bring the PIP3 final into final form. And you know, Rick is here and he's kind of suffering in many ways, but he's persistently trying to do this. What he needs is a few people who have taken PIP3 beta. Is there anybody here who has taken the PIP3 beta test? Okay. He would like you to go to his room 176, like 1776, you know, Declaration of Independence, 176. So to give him some, your data, so he can compare how you did on that with our final PIP3. We've got PIP3 beta, which you took, and we've got PIP3 final, which we're trying to bring in to final form. So you just knock on his door and give him your, whatever he asks for, data, whatever, and he'll be able to do that anytime after this meeting. And you know, 5 or 6 people, or how many were there that were willing to do that? Just go over there. Are there no one willing?
It's right beside the books.
Yeah, it's right over there.
176.
It's right there.
Right beside the books.
So.
You mean the latest one that's on the...
Yeah, in other words, you just go to his door. If you've taken PIP3 beta, the PIP3 beta test with 174 questions, the long one, it's now been cut down to PIP3 final, and he wants to compare your results, okay? So he just needs a little data from you. Yes?
I think that what he's wanting to do is to get your reaction as to which of the...
Which looks more like you.
You resonate the most with. You know, is it the old one or the new one?
Okay. Okay, well, you just go to his door and he's got two graphs, I think, and maybe you just take a look at him and give him your feedback. What's it? Oh, yeah, he just wants your login information. Look, he'll tell you what he wants. You just knock on his door, okay? Okay. All right, just drop in. Okay. You have to have taken PIP3 beta. Okay, good. Niklas at last. Sure. Take it. Here, take it. All right. Just put it on here.
Well, let's give it a try. I'll just get another fisherman. I got a fisherman right now. Thanks. So, all right. Okay, all right, so we'll try to project. We'll try to project.
Duplicate.
Are you ready? You're standing by.
Yeah, just like you're supposed to.
All right. Yep, very good. right, friends. My throat is a bit challenged today, so I'll just do my best, and you probably raise the sound a little bit. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, my Venus, I didn't say anything about, so why don't I just say something about it from this very good exercise from Heidi here. I think, I have created a web page. It's thecosmicorder.com. So I think it has something to do with my Venus placement, actually. So do you have a guess as to where my Venus may be located based on that webpage?
Sagittarius?
Could be.
Libra?
Capricorn is closer to the truth, actually. So yes, I have Venus in Capricorn, and to me, the whole sense of the beauty and order of cosmos is very appealing. And I try to pursue that as best I can. It's in the 8th house. So I try to shine the light of Venus into some of the dark places where we may find very interesting things of beauty eventually. And I'm trying to bring that out as best I can. So I will actually invite you to my Venus webpage, and perhaps if you would like to sign up for information about upcoming webinars and teachings relating to my sense of the cosmic order, which is of course related to esoteric astrology, but which is trying to go a little bit deeper, Venus in the 8th house, okay? Go a little bit deeper, further, to see what's underneath it all, so to speak. Because I find that to be very, very valuable, very beneficial in order to understand the words of the Tibetan in what he's writing in his books. We can read his books and say, yes, this is obvious, but why may it be obvious? There's a reason why he's using certain words, certain phrases, certain terminology. And we don't even know when he is extremely specific about things, because we don't know the underlying structure enough. But he knows that. And I think if we can learn more about that underlying structure, of which esoteric astrology as a whole science is based, we will have a much better understanding of what esoteric astrology is really about. So that is some of my work these days, and so I invite you to go into thecosmicorder.com, sign your email, and you'll get information about upcoming webinars on esoteric astrology, etc. So that's my Venus, Heidi, is that okay? All right. Yes. Now let's see. Was I supposed to say anything more? Okay, well, we have some stuff here, so maybe we can look at that. So right now we have the conjunction of Sun and Uranus together in Aries. I don't know if you've noticed that. I have noticed that because it happens on my north node, on my nodal axis. And you know, the nodes, they can be real tricksters. They can really act up on you, especially when combined with Uranus, which is a combination of, should we say, appearance and disappearance. Is it real or is it illusion? Going out of form, you know, into the formless realms and back into form. So it's an interesting experience, let me say, in that sense. But it also has an effect on the technical stuff. So, but let's hope this will be all right for now. Now that conjunction is also of great interest in the work that I've been pursuing, because the Sun and Uranus are ruling planets of two signs. The Sun is a ruler of Leo, right? And Uranus is a ruler of the opposite sign to Leo, which is Aquarius. So in the conjunction here today in the sign Aries, we have a coming together of the opposites, Leo and Aquarius, making a new beginning, a new start, a new emergence of the understanding of what is the true self and what is the place of that self within the greater whole. So asking those questions, we can state the following: that our solar system, where the Sun is the central star, is from the higher cosmic planes seen as a vast blue lotus. Now, you've probably heard this statement before, and it's a beautiful statement, and it also tells us about the nature of our particular solar system within its greater environment, its greater whole. A vast blue lotus which resonates with the idea of a heart center, and the qualities and energies related to the second ray of love and wisdom that are embodied in our particular solar system, which is a heart center within an even greater entity. You've probably seen this statement as well. It's from the race initiations. It says that the zodiacal wheel is itself essentially a cosmic center. It is a 12-petal lotus, but it is a 12-petal lotus within the 1,000-petal lotus of an unknown cosmic entity, the one referred to in my earlier books as the one about whom naught may be said. So our solar system as a heart center resonates with the idea of the 12 signs of the zodiac that are like the 12 petals of the lotus of the heart within the torso, which is a reflection in its turn of the heart within the head, which also has 12 petals to it. But that heart within the head, 12-petal lotus, is immersed and surrounded by a much greater zodiac. And if you think about it like this, that the Sun is related to Leo and it's central, and the opposite sign to Leo is Aquarius, which has to do with decentralization and universality. then you can perhaps begin to see how Leo and Aquarius are very involved in the structure related to the head center, with the 12-petaled central lotus and the 1,000-petaled surrounding lotus, which is then connected to the synthetic universality of Aquarius. So you have within your own head the interchange of these two signs, very definitely so. So this refers to the great wheel. So what is that great wheel? Well, the great wheel is an archetype indicating the relations of the one about whom naught may be said. The great wheel describes the anatomy of the highest head center of the one about whom naught may be said. To be more specific, it is related to the environment in which our solar system finds itself, which is the Milky Way galaxy. This should come as no surprise to anyone, I hope. One of millions of stars within this galaxy. This is not an actual picture of the galaxy, right? But it gives us an estimation based upon our science, as far as it takes us, as to where we are, so to speak, located with respect to the galactic center. We are, in other words, towards the outskirts somewhat. We're definitely not close to the core of the galaxy. So this gives you an estimation of the distances found here. And the sun is, as this is suggested by its name, Sol, rather alone in the particular place where it is found. It's a bit isolated there. There are other stars as well, but if you compare that location to other locations possible, we are, rather lonely in that place, which is somewhat reflective of the developments that our solar system is going through in this particular solar system. Now, if you take that Milky Way galaxy and just tilt it a little bit, you get a circle like this, which you can actually get your bearings in terms of constellations. In this case, I've put the cardinal signs here. Means little to you right now, but just to move us along here, the idea of the Ouroboros is connected to the Milky Way galaxy, and it's the serpent biting its own tail. And in a way, where the head and the tail meet in the serpent is in the direction where we find the galactic center. So if we can orient ourselves, in heavens, we will find that in the direction of the galactic center, that's where this great serpent, this great dragon, is actually meeting itself, merging, creating oneness out of that. It's, of course, a tradition found in many different cultures. Here is the Quetzalcoatl version of it, which again is biting its tail. It's interesting to see, in this case actually it has 7 segments to it, which is a very esoteric division, which is related to the 7 rays in their cosmic origin, which can actually be found in various locations when you look at the galactic field. Because you know that our solar system, which is a solar system of the second ray, is a second ray, the cosmic second ray. And there's a cosmic first ray and third ray. So there's a whole range of rays, but our solar system is expressing the second of those cosmic rays. But the other 6 cosmic rays can be oriented to within the galactic field. And so in a sense place our sun in connection with these other rays as well, in its greater whole. And the Tibetan has given us the hints as to how to do this orientation in certain of his writings on the rays. Now this is something you recognize probably, having looked at your horoscope for some while now, I guess. And these are the glyphs used for the nodes. And they are called the head of the dragon, Caput Draconis, and the tail of the dragon, Cauda Draconis. And as I said, I just have Sun and Uranus right now on my own head of the dragon, and it's an interesting experience. These nodes are in the Indian Vedic tradition called shadowy planets. So they're actually viewed as planets. In esoteric astrology, I will suggest that you have to involve them when you deal with the fluid areas that Kathy talked about earlier. In order to understand the impact of Vulcan, Neptune, and Uranus with respect to the moon, you have to make reference to the nodes as well. They are, after all, the lunar nodes, and they are the intersection points of the lunar orbit with respect to the terrestrial orbit around the sun, what we call the ecliptic. Hence they are intersection points. So where they are found, realities that are different come together and meet and disappear, as I say, and reappear, as the case may be, especially when Uranus is active. Now these two nodes also relate to the initial conjunction of Sun and Uranus as being related to Leo, ruled by the Sun, and Aquarius, ruled by Uranus. Now if you look at the head of the dragon, which is also known as the moon's north node, this, maybe you see a resemblance with the glyph of Leo, the sign Leo, which in your charts is seen like this, which is sometimes said to be the depiction of the tail of the lion. There are other ways to see that, of course, but yes, you see the connection to Leo there. Now, the south node, or the tail of the dragon, is the other way around. It's inverse, like this. it has a connection with Aquarius. And perhaps you can see a connection with Aquarius, at least when you consider Aquarius as being the carrier of the urn or the pot. So this is the pot, this is the urn, which is being filled with the life-giving waters. So in those two glyphs of the nodes, you have a direct relation also to Leo and Aquarius, actually. And here you have an almost naked man pouring out the waters of life. So that's the urn, that's the south node. Now think about it like this. In, should we say, ordinary astrology, we like to think of the south node as indicating something that we need to somehow disassociate ourselves from. It represents a pattern which is no longer serving a higher purpose for us in life. So we need to move away from what the south node is indicating in our horoscopes. And that is the lower Aquarius in the state where you need to integrate yourself as a personality. Because in the early days, Aquarius is everywhere and nowhere, right? So you need to find a focus, to build yourself up, and with the tendencies indicated in the south node, that is constantly tearing down your efforts. So you need to move away from that, to disassociate yourself from that, and so move towards the north node, and thus towards Leo, which is a sign where you build your self-conscious identity. And thus you build that along with the north node, and when you do that, you know, that coincides with fulfilling your ambitions in the world and reaching certain fulfillments related to the form nature, which then eventually lead you into a brick wall, because this is leading you nowhere fast. So what you do, well, you kind of take the glyph of the north node and take it literally, because it does indicates a U-turn. A U-turn, okay, you can't go in that direction any longer. You have to change your ways. Uranus. That's where Uranus comes in the fluid area in relation to the north node and the moon, to be very active in its expression through that lunar part of us. So change is the word then, or reorientation and reversal are words used in esoteric astrology. You basically have to lift your eyes onto something higher to find values that are more lasting than the ones that you have pursued before. So the north node is an indicator for you to reorient yourself in another direction, having integrated yourself where and with what the north node is indicating, thus empowered yourself, and you can stand in your own being in a sense. So where do you go then from the north node? Yes, you reorient yourself. I mean, This is also the swerving of the bull of desire, which is then changing desires into aspiration for something better, something higher. So where do you go? Well, if we stay with the axis of polarity that we have been discussing primarily, Leo and Aquarius, you return to Aquarius. But this time, you will not lose yourself because you've built your identity strongly and you have a value in the world. You have now an instrument which is working for you. And you can enter into, should we say, a greater sense of soul and group consciousness related to Aquarius. And thus return as you build your soul connections, return to that earlier condition as a redeemer of those conditions. So you become like a server. You become like a saving force with respect to that which is now indicated by the South Node in your chart. No longer are you losing yourself there, other than in the service of the one, or the many, or the brothers. So this is a quite important addition when dealing with the horoscope, to also consider these dynamics, because they will be complementary to the understanding of the moon, its sign and position and aspects, its phase, and the same for the sun, its position by sign, house, and aspects, and the ascendant. If you add the dynamics of the nodes, oftentimes it makes more sense and you get a greater understanding of the picture and what is going on actually, and why you have the moon there and the sun there and the ascendant there. So, do the nodes have a place in esoteric astrology? Yes, they do. An important place. He never uses the word node per se in the book Esoteric Astrology, but at least to me as I read it, when he speaks about the fluid areas, when he talks about Vulcan, when he talks about Uranus and the veiling, he's actually also talking about the presence of these nodes. All right, so we return to the greater picture again. Okay. And again, we're playing with the pairs of opposites of Leo and Aquarius, of Sun and Uranus, in a sense. The central star, our sun, is connected to the zodiac, because apparently the sun is traveling through the 12 or 13 constellations and thus make what we call the ecliptic or the zodiacal belt. And this is indicated here by the blue line. So this is, where the sun travels around the earth or vice versa. And thus through the constellations related to that. As you can see, it's at an angle to the greater wheel, which is the galactic wheel here. So they do not coincide. And in a sense, this is actually, I think also what the Tibetan is hinting at in esoteric astrology, when he's asking questions about not seeing the reversal of the sun in the heavens. You know, the sun doesn't reverse itself. No, not really, but the sun, in the sense of its extension as a wheel like this, is reversing itself and need to reverse itself with respect to the greater wheel, which is the galactic wheel. And right now it has apparently necessarily separated itself from the galactic equator or the galactic plane. It's like you need to remove yourself from the mass consciousness in order again to build self-consciousness, in order to know yourself. So our sun, our whole solar system is working on this identity aspect of himself as a solar logos. He's separated himself from the celestial waters of the galaxy, the mass, the Cancer aspect, so to speak. He's building his own identity, and thus he's somewhat isolated in that process, necessarily so. He is Sol. But I will submit to you that this relation between the two wheels will change over time, such that our wheel of the sun will again realign with the galaxy when the time is right, when he can also return to the south node, so to speak, without losing himself. And that will then be a great period in the expression of the life of the solar logos, of course. Will it happen in this solar system? I don't know. Or will it wait until the next solar system, the third or the sixth or seventh in order, depending on how you count, when the will aspect is the primary focus of development, just like love and wisdom is the primary focus for us right now in this solar system. We don't know the cycles related to these things, but I will submit to you that there is a relation and a movement which is very important, although quite slow, but it is very real. It is very real. So here's a picture of the constellations in the heavens, and some of them you will recognize, probably the ones starting with Scorpio, Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus. This pink line is the ecliptic, where the zodiacal constellations are found. And as you saw in the previous picture, the two wheels are at an angle towards each other. So the galactic plane is here to be found. This is the, let's see, yes, this is the galactic plane. Here. Here is the ecliptic. And as you can see, they intersect each other, right? Now, two wheels intersecting will meet in two places, right? And one of the places where they meet, in terms of the zodiac, is between Taurus and Gemini. So think about it. In your own horoscope, between Taurus and Gemini, there is this galactic arc finding its way through. And its presence there is very real. The constellations that are entered here are, according to my research, the corresponding constellations on the galactic wheel relating to the 12 creative hierarchies, because the 12 creative hierarchies do not originate within the zodiacal wheel. They work through it, but they originate within the galactic wheel. Now, the 12 creative hierarchies are relating to basically the cardinal cross expression, which is related to the monad and spirit expression, and the first aspect. So the creative hierarchies relate to our monad, and we are part of the Scorpio hierarchy. Let's see if we have a chance to come back to that. I would like to read this quote for you. It is one of those quotes relating to a greater zodiac. It says, "I would like also to emphasize, perhaps unnecessarily, that Sirius, the Great Bear, and Pleiades work through the medium of the 12 constellations, pouring their influences through 9 of them in particular, but that these major constellations are not part of the zodiac with which we are concerned. They, with the 7 solar systems, of which ours is one, are the 10 constellations connected with a still greater zodiac, which is not conditioned by the numerical significance of the number 12. Hence 10 is regarded as the number of perfection." And yes, there is confusion in the minds of some of us. He's here mentioning a greater zodiac that is conditioned by the number 10. 10 constellations, and in a way, that greater zodiac of 10 is anchored in the galactic wheel. So if you really want to pursue an understanding of what is that greater zodiac, which is really under the conditioning of the number 10, then you need to involve the galactic wheel to really try to understand that. So there's necessarily a connection between the greater zodiac of 10 and the zodiac of 12. And there have been attempts to relate these in various ways. For example, in the Vedic traditions, where you have the notion of the 28 lunar mansions. The 28 lunar mansions, the moon, the moon's nodes, the dragon influence, the Ouroboros. You begin to see a trail here. So the moon, in a certain sense, is the mass, but the moon is also something on a higher turn of the spiral, because it's, interesting enough, also the hierarchical ruler of Aquarius. So there is a very high potential with respect to the moon here that we are touching upon. And thus it's standing as the opponent to the sun in Leo again. You have the sun and moon playing out here in these two wheels. Now the Vedic astrologers work very well with these lunar mansions. And of course the number 28 is related to the stars attributed to the constellation of Capricorn, according to the secret doctrine, which has 28 stars in it. And those of you who do numerology, and all esoteric astrologers need to do that, because that is part of esoteric astrology. Know that 2 and 8 makes 10. And Capricorn is the 10th sign, and it is the Makara, it is the crocodile, it is the dragon. Now, in this type of wheel, which is very esoteric, although it may not be revealed as such in the Vedic types of astrology that you meet, it has basically the 108 padas, or steps, to perfection. You recognize the number 108, probably from other places as well. These 108 padas make together the 9 zodiacs and the 10th synthesizing one. And here you have a depiction, an attempt to depict an understanding of the relation of the zodiac of 12 and the zodiac of 10, in the sense that there are 10 zodiacs of 12 signs. Ponder on that, where the 10th is the synthesizing one. Yes, this is very rich for those of you who would like to enter into such a field of study. It is something in our journeys on the celestial ship, as I like to see it. In our webinars, we move through the constellations in the heavens on the celestial waters, and we try to understand the various constellations that are there found, their relation to each other, and their relation to us as struggling men on the path towards perfection. So each of the constellations in the heavens have a certain contribution and a certain challenge and a certain gift for each and every one of us. And it is part of wisdom to try to understand the constellations that we are under the impress of in any one incarnation. So again, I invite you to partake in our travels there. Here's another statement. It's interesting to bear in mind that just as each sign is divided into 3 decanates, which are ruled by specific planets, so the zodiac itself is a part of a still greater zodiac and is also divided into 3 parts. The threefold division of the zodiac is ruled by 3 constellations, which are to this greater zodiac what the planets are to the decanates. It's mind-boggling, but it's something to meditate upon and ponder. And actually, if you do it with respect to this wheel, in its triple division, governed by the fire signs, much will be revealed. Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. So those are the demarcations for the division, the triple division of this greater wheel, where constellations are activated in relation to our solar system, because we are working on certain aspects in this second solar system that are then emerging as part of each of those 3 divisions. They are Scorpio, Taurus, and Pisces. All right, so here we have the relation again, what we may call the cosmic zodiac, for lack of a better word, relating to the galactic wheel, and the ecliptic zodiac with respect to the zodiac that we are familiar with. Here you have the other side of the heavens, where the 2 wheels meet, the galactic with the creative hierarchies, and here you have the zodiacal wheel intersecting And as you can see, the galactic wheel is intersecting, well, where Scorpio is found and where Sagittarius is found. So the galactic center is in the direction where the archer is pointing his arrow and where the scorpion is raising his tail. So it's a quite severe place, in other words. And yes, there is a black hole at the center there, so maybe these severe acts of these severe constellations are indicative of the power found in respect to that part, which is the galactic center. Yes. So, you know, looking at this picture and thinking about Capricorn again and the theme of this conference, which is initiation, there's always this talk about, you know, the mountain of initiation, the mountain top of initiation. And it's related to Capricorn. Yes, it's the 10th sign. And yes, but where's the mountain? I mean, we're talking about it all the time in astrology, and we never see it. Or do we? Perhaps we do. But the mountain, in terms of location in the heavens, is, you know, connected to that area where we find the axis of our planet directed and the axis of the solar system oriented. In other words, we're talking about the polar area, the North Pole of our planet, as well as the North Pole of the solar system itself. So the whole idea of initiation and, you know, climbing up the mountain, what we're really talking about in terms of orientation in space and astrology is the North Pole and the circumpolar stars. They are found. You know, they never set. They are immortals. It's the land of the immortals that we are approaching as we ascend the mountain top. So, you know, perhaps we can 8. 8 is a good number. Thank you, Michael. Speaking of the polar area, 8 is a very good number. You're very intuitive, Michael. So where is that? Well, let's see. So this is where the galactic center is found, right? Here. Here's the galactic center. You got Scorpio here. You got Sagittarius here. Okay. Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, standing at the galactic center as the 13th constellation, playing the role of the center of the 12 surrounding constellations. Now this is the place of the mountain top. This is the mountain that we all are trying to ascend. We find the dragon awaiting us there. Who is that dragon? Well, it's the solar angel. That's the dragon. The great angel of wisdom. So, in that sense, we don't have to be, you know, fearful. No. The solar angel is there, and of course, he wants to leave. So when we arrive, he says, "Bye-bye, it's been very nice to know you. See you later." And we take the place on the mountaintop. This is, of course, where head and base meet. the dragon itself is in greater circumstances related to the base of the spine center in the one of one about whom not may be said. So the mountaintop is very much connected to the idea of the expression and the anchoring of the higher will in form. Something which our planet in itself, a first-ray monad, is attempting to achieve as its function within our solar system. Hence, we find our planet located symbolically in the galactic center, but also at the top of the mountain. In a way, you can superimpose the top of the mountain upon the galactic center in order to get a bird's eye view on the galaxy instead of a view from the side, because we are in the disk of the galaxy. So you're beginning to see, as we talk about this, how it actually transforms 2 or 3 dimensions eventually into 4 dimensions, because there is a movement, there's a livingness to all of these energies that are very real, which Aquarius is seeking to convey to us. Because where does the Aquarian water bearer get his life-giving waters anyway? Well, he fills his urn in the waters of the galactic field. That's where the prana and the vitality of the higher spheres originates and is then poured into our little system, revitalized, rejuvenated as wisdom and profound understanding. So this is where we need to ascend, and when you look at the great wheel in its wisdom, being the book of heaven, containing the history of man from beginning to end, we need to learn to read this to understand the stages of development and to know where we are, the point in evolution, the stages of development, which the Tibetan says is essential in order to interpret a horoscope in the right way. So to gain a better way of doing that, better understanding the point in evolution, knowing these other constellations as they represent the stages of development will help us in elaborating on that. So, you know, much can be said about this here, but in a way, when individualization occurred and you know, they shot forth like arrows from the bow, you know. This is Sagittarius in a way. This is the beginning. This is individualization. This is the conception of the man. This constellation is also understood to be a man or a fetus with his umbilical cord in the womb of the great mother, the galactic mother. So there is so much richness of understanding to be gained from these things that also the Tibetan is drawing from, that will give us a better understanding also of the 12 zodiacal signs, because they can be rather textbooky. What's the word? I don't know. They can be rather artificial in a way, but this will help us to understand their true nature, because they receive from these greater constellations their true nature. They are assembled from these other parts. So the lords of the constellations of the zodiac assemble these other constellations according to their development, according to their nature, according to their gift to us that we are using in order to connect higher. So it's interesting also in this sense to understand that in several languages the whole idea of arrows, shooting forth like arrows is just another way of saying that, of impregnation, by sperm. So in this sense, where the galactic center is found, that's the birth canal of the Great Mother. So the archer here, shooting his arrows into the galactic center, is also another way of saying that the Great Mother is being impregnated by sperm from the Creator. There is an interaction going on here, and there's a development of a fetus. And this was also the beginning of the human kingdom way back more than 21 million years ago. And then you can go around the wheel and try to understand the different constellations as they talk about the separation of the sexes, etc., during Lemuria, the developments and the wars and the battles during Atlantis, etc. And the whole, it's so interesting how is depicted here the whole process of reorientation, which we have discussed. When you look at these constellations, you can see Orion is angled like this. Then you have Auriga, a little bit more angle like that. Then you have Perseus even further, and then you have Cassiopeia even more, and Andromeda, and then you come to the king himself, Cepheus. He's completely inverted. So, there's depicted here the whole story of our reorientation, the reversal that we have to go through. And each of these constellations talk about the stages of such reversals. And of course, yes, there's a relation being established between the decanates and the three extra zodiacal constellations to each of the constellations in the zodiac. But there are also other relations outside of that has to be clarified for each of the three crosses of development, of personality, of soul, and of spirit. Because these crosses are thus found also with respect to this greater wheel. So you can see here that the king is eventually completely inverted. And where is he standing? Well, he's standing on the star Polaris, which is our pole star, where our Earth's axis is oriented. And what did we say about that area of the heavens? That is the mountain. So what is the king doing on the mountain? Yes. There's something related to initiation here.
We have to now.
So
Well,
now,
so what is the name of your new website and course? Where do they come? The Cosmic?
the Cosmic Order, thecosmicorder.com.
Be a great place to learn a lot. And so, unfortunately, since we have one more event tonight, we have to stop now. But with deep appreciation for the profundity of your thought. So I will remind everyone that we have tonight at 7:30 the presentation of the altars in the ceremonial group for those who can come. And tomorrow it does say 7:30, I hope.
Okay.
I hope so. I don't want to give misinformation. It better not be 7. That's too early. Better not be 7. And tomorrow, the readings, we begin in 5 or 6 groups. We'll figure out how we do it. The individual readings that are part of this process. So I want to thank all the presenters today, yesterday, very good, and 7:25. That seems like a hint. So 7:25 over at the Palo Verde room in the Lotus Temple. Have a good dinner. I believe it's available